When we elect someone to Congress, it's more than one person getting a salary. Why then do we never hear a whisper of who these people are or what they do? Call me silly, and we all know I am, but I kind of think this matters. So we've got someone here today to answer some questions. A liar, a fraudster, a cheat. Huh? Oh, he hasn't been elected yet. Kyle Kilborn is with us to lay out how he would build his team and what they would do.
Okay, so the biggest thing that I want to know is who are you going to hire and how are you going to build your team, Kyle? But first
Yeah,
off, fill us in on some of the basic facts that you have to work with here.
yeah. So as a representative, you get to build your office, and so you are allocated a budget. It is called a members representational allowance, and with that, each district is different. It depends on the size of your district and how far you are from DC. But you get this allowance, and it changes every year. But for the 7 CD here in Wisconsin, this budget was $1.9 million to have an office each year. It's a large amount of money, but it serves for everything that your office needs. So it includes, the mail, franked mail budget, includes your staff compensation, includes travel, includes your rent, your district offices, includes printing, supplies, materials, technology, all of that. So you basically are a CEO of a small corporation that has a $1.9 million budget, and you have to hire staff to fill that. You have to have office space and make all that work within that budget. One of the fun things is if you go over that budget, you got to pay for it yourself.
I like that thought. So, but tell me, like, are there other restrictions? Do you have to have a certain number of offices? Do you have to have a certain number of employees or roles filled?
Nope, there's no like minimum. There are maximums. And so staff-wise, the House of Representative, you can have a limit of 18 staff members, which is a lot. To be able to pay for that many folks on your staff would be really hard, but there is a limit of maximum of 18. Um, for office districts in your district, there is no number. It's up to you to how many you want to set up. 25% of House members have one office. Uh, 31% have two offices, and then another 25% have three. So those are like the most common number of offices you have, and you just have to keep in mind how big your district is and how many offices you need.
Okay. Yeah, and to me, you said it before. I'm going to say it again. $1.9 million, correct, for this district last year?
Yes, that's
To,
correct.
to me, that is a chunk. To me, that is significant. I think I should be able to feel the effects of that. And I want to know, I want you to give us an idea of what we might be able to expect to tangibly get out of your office under a similar type of budget.
Yeah, yeah. So, each member gets to decide what their goal and their vision for the office is. And for me, my vision is an office that economically empowers our working families and communities by strengthening our community's access to resources and responding to constituents' needs with the federal government. And so what that means is, I want to be a champion for clean water and our landscape. We have a lot of problems in our district around clean water, and making sure that there is someone fighting for that. I also want to be, the leading advocate of strengthening the middle class in Congress by advocating for a stronger middle class. And so that means, you know, talking about healthcare and getting it so that it works for everyone. It's talking about housing and childcare and our care infrastructure, and making sure that we are passing legislation around that. So part of the office is, passing legislation that actually helps and strengthens the middle class. The other part of the office is in district. And so that includes things like making sure that we're bringing money back to the district. So if $1.9 million is funding that office, can we see, you know, 100% scale on that. And so like is $190 million coming back to the district in the form of grants? So part of the office is looking at what are the needs around the district and forming grants and getting businesses and nonprofits to apply for grants and even local governments to apply for those grants and making sure that they know where those grants are, what part of the federal government they're in, and make sure that we get those grants into the district.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that is a service, and somebody needs to be active in doing that. And but it begs the question, like, okay, like name for me the top two or three roles that you're going to hire, and kind of give me a picture of what their 9 to 5. Like your example right now, that's a great example. Helping people and businesses get the most out of what's there in government right now for them, right? But who do
Yep.
you hire? What's their background? What are their competencies you're looking for? And what is a regular day look like for their job?
Yeah, yeah. So I sort of place it in sort of three sort of buckets of people we would be hiring for the House of Representatives office. First is the front of house, and this includes people like the chief of staff and the scheduler. And the front of house, make sure this thing is on time. It makes sure I'm getting to the right places. It's making sure we're having the right meetings, and it's running the budget as well, and sort of making sure that people are doing the jobs they need to. The chief of staff is a critical hire in an office. They're probably the person with the most experience in government and sort of knows how to work around, the fun part of government and all the intricacies of it. And so that is a key hire. The next kind of group of staff is sort of I call the on stage. So they're sort of in the middle doing the groundwork. The one is around casework and the district director. So, if you open an office in the district, you need someone to run that office. You need some people to sort of respond to constituents' concerns, about their passports or their veteran benefits. And so those are the people that are like on the ground, making sure that the people in the district get the help they need.
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
the third, yeah. And a part of that, on stage, that's the district side of things. And then you have the DC side of things. That's the legislative director and aides, and then the grants and project coordinators. And those are the people that are more, familiar with. We see on TV that they go into those meetings with Congress and sort of, argue about bills and like make sure things get passed. And that's a key part of the office as well. And then the final part we call the back of house. And this is like you probably don't see these people, but they're critical, like an office manager to make sure supplies are ordered and maintained. The mail comes in and is answered, the system administrator that does all the technology and email. And so those are sort of the back of house. And you need those three functions, the front of house, the people on the stage, and the back of house.
Okay. And to me, like when you're looking at somebody, let's get into this. When you're looking at resumes, right? When you start exploring and you see who you want to bring onto your squad, to me, one of the things that would think would be of a great value, especially like in the legislative side of things, is why not look for somebody that's got a different viewpoint than your own? Study this stuff objectively, yes. Have a background in research, yes. But somebody that's going to look at things ideologically, help you look at things from all angles to catch the vantage points that you're never going to catch, right? I think that would be of value. I don't know if that's being done. I want to know what you would do, if you value that, what you would do to ensure that gets done.
Yeah, I think, people come with different skill sets and different ways of looking at things. I have a background as a designer, so I'm always looking at the big picture and like how does this fit into people's lives. We need people that are very good at sort of the very detailed aspects of the bill and making sure that the language, fits legally, and sort of has that legal background. And, I don't have a legal background. So, I want to be able to pair with someone that sort of has that background to sure that, we don't want to introduce bills that have unintended consequences. I will be looking at it from how does this affect a member's life in the district, and so making sure that bills are passed in that way. But we also need someone to make sure that the language is, strong enough to survive court challenges, and that happens all the time. And so making sure that if we're going to pass bills that are effective, that they have that perspective. And for me, when I build a team, so I've done a lot of teams in the corporate and business setting, and for me, it's always fun to have people that bring those different perspectives in because I've learned in innovation, it's not just having ideas, it's actually putting them into practice, and you
Mhm.
need people to sort of critique ideas, make them better, and build on that feedback.
Yeah, so here's like the real crux of the matter to me, quality control, right? Quality control, not only from your end, but like I think we have a right as the constituents, as the citizens, to see this. So I want to hit back on one of my first points here. How am I going to know what you're doing? How am I going to feel the impacts of this? And what are you going to give us as a measure to draw our own conclusions about the quality of product that you're putting forward throughout the entire office?
Yeah, I think that's good. In my time in business, it's we'd like to measure a lot of things. We have the top line, the bottom line. So top line is like, are we growing as a district? And so for me, that's important. Are we growing the number of businesses in the district, and are those businesses succeeding? Let's make that as part of the scorecard as we talk about Congress. Um, the other part is, you know, it takes a while to get to where we need to go. So we have to have, we call them OKRs, objectives and key results. What are we trying to achieve and how are we measuring that? And so I think it's fair to ask members of Congress to say, what are your objectives while in Congress and are you measuring them? And so, if for example, one of my goals is to play a lead role in the district's economic development and revitalization, one of those key results is how much in grants are we bringing in to that actually goes on the ground in the district that pays for infrastructure, that pays for building schools, roads, and things like that. And so, that is part of a member's job to sort of communicate how they're impacting the district.
I agree. I agree. And you know what? I'd love to hear more about the staff members themselves. I really would. Um, I'm curious to know your opinion. Like, why have I never heard before, right? What the people working in the congressional staff, who they are, what they're doing. Like, we never hear any talk about it. We see a zillion ads on TV, and it's all about I, me. We is just like, are you going to buy into my theory? To me, we never hear team. We never see team. And I'd love for that to change. And I wonder if there's anything you can offer us to make that shift.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction is, making sure that um, I am an advocate for more involvement in government and more participation. Like we need people to participate to know what they're getting. I hear often from folks that they write emails to, their Congress member and don't hear anything. Like that's not acceptable. And that
I think
they
that's the
they
norm. Like, I think that's the norm.
yeah, and I don't think that's acceptable. I think for me, having the staff in place and being able to respond and show what we're doing, and sort of elevating folks. And part of it is, how do we talk about the next generation of leaders? It feels like, once you're in office, you shut the door and you're the incumbent forever, and
Right.
nothing ever changes. Like, but how do we sort of, promote the next generation to get on board, to have those skill sets, to have, a chance in the limelight and like get their name out there and show that we're building infrastructure for the next generation. And, as a member of Congress, that is part of the job. Like I actually hate being in front of the screen and talking to folks, but it's part of the job, and you have to do it. But you also can sort of share that with others and your
Yeah.
team. And so, I think one of those roles, is a communication director to sort of say, all right, here's what this office is doing.
Yeah.
Here's part of the office. Here's who's on our team sort of advocating for you
Yeah.
and making sure that we get that message out.
Yeah. I mean, all I got to say in closing is that comms director you're talking about hiring right now, like, all due respect to marketers, don't give me somebody with a marketing background, right? Like, I don't want fluff. I don't want cheese. I don't want our guys the greatest in the world. I want, here's the facts, and they speak for themselves. Like, that's what we need. This is what we need in politics. Draw your own conclusions. I'm not here to sell what we're doing. I'm here to just show the work, right? Like, I come from manufacturing, and you can't hide it. The parts work, and they fit, and they function, or they don't. It's pretty easy to understand if you succeed or fail. That's the kind of clarity and transparency we need, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's not how much work you're doing, it's what works. Is it working and does it work? And that's what we need to be sharing about what happens in government. Otherwise, people won't trust it. And so, part of the challenge is, there's this franking of communications, and it's all about marketing the current member of Congress instead of showing what is happening in Congress and what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm happy for Kyle Kilborn here to put himself on the fence like that and make that challenge. And hey, we're gonna hold you to feet to the fire. If you get elected, I mean, we're gonna circle back to this conversation and say, by golly, show me what you're doing.
I
Sound
think
like a
that's a
deal?
good idea.
Sounds
Yeah,
like a deal. Hey, appreciate your time today. Appreciate everybody watching. We'll catch you on the next episode. Take care.